Hello everyone, welcome to First Chapter Friday. Our story today is related to freedoms that some of us take for granted, and it's one of the best books I feel that is on this particular topic, and it is Dear Martin by Nick Stone. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech, December 10th, 1964. Part 1, Chapter 1. From where he's standing across the street, Justice can see her, Mello Taylor, ex-girlfriend, slumped over beside her Benz on the damp concrete of the Farm Fresh parking lot. She is missing a shoe, and the contents of her purse are scattered around her like the guts of a pulled party popper. He knows she's stone drunk, but this is too much, even for her. Just shakes his head, remembering the judgment all over his best friend Manny's face as he left Manny's house not 15 minutes ago. The walk symbol appears. As he approaches, she opens her eyes, and he waves and pulls his earbuds out just in time to hear her say, "What the hell are you doing here?" Justice asks himself the same question as he watches her try and fail to shift her knees. She falls over sideways and hits her face against the car door. He drops down and reaches for her cheek, which is as red as the candy apple paint job. "Damn, Mello, are you okay?" She pushes his hand away. "What do you care?" Stung, Justice takes a deep breath. He cares a lot, obviously. If he didn't, he wouldn't have walked a mile from Manny's house at 3 a.m. Manny's of the opinion that Mello's the worst thing that ever happened to Juss, so of course he refused to give his boy a ride, all to keep his drunken disaster of an ex from driving. He should walk away right now. Justice should. But he doesn't. "Jess called me," he tells her. "That skank. Don't be like that, babe. She only called me because she knows I care about you." Jessa had planned to take Mello home herself, but Mel threatened to call the cops and say that she'd been kidnapped if Jessa didn't drop her at her car. Mello can be a little dramatic when she's drunk. "I'm totally unfollowing her," she says, case in point, "in life and online. The nosy bitch." Justice shakes his head again. "I just came to make sure you get home, okay?" That's when it hits Justice that while he might succeed in getting Mello home, he has no idea how he'll get back. He closes his eyes as Manny's words ring through his head. "This Captain Save-A-Ho thing is gonna get you in trouble, dog." He looks Mello over. She's now sitting with her head leaned back against the car door, half asleep, mouth open. He sighs. Even drunk, just can't deny Mello's the finest girl he's ever laid eyes on, not to mention hands on. She starts to tilt, and Justice catches her by the shoulders to keep her from falling. She startles, looking at him wide-eyed, and Jess can see everything about her that initially caught his attention. Mello's dad is this Hall of Fame NFL linebacker. Big black dude. But her mom is from Norway. She caught Mrs. Taylor's milky Norwegian complexion, wavy hair, the color of honey, and amazing green eyes that are kind of purple around the edge. But she has really full lips, a small waist, crazy curvy hips, and probably the nicest butt Juss has ever seen in his life. That's part of his problem. He gets too tripped up by how beautiful she is. He never would have dreamed a girl as fine as her would be into him. Now he's got the urge to kiss her, even though her eyes are red and her hair's a mess and she smells like vodka and cigarettes and weed. But when he goes to push her hair out of her face, She shoves his hand away again. "Don't touch me, Justice." She starts shifting her stuff around on the ground. Lipstick, Kleenex, tampons, one of those circular thingies with makeup in one half and the mirror in the other. A flask. "Ugh, where are my keys?" Justice spots them in front of the black tire and snatches them up. "You're not driving, Bello." "Give 'em." She swipes for the keys, but falls into his arms instead. Justice props her up against the car again and gathers the rest of her stuff to put it back in her bag, which is large enough to hold a week's worth of groceries. What is it with girls and purses the size of duffel bags? He unlocks the car, tosses the bag on the floor of the back seat, and tries to get Mello up off the ground. Then everything goes really wrong really fast. First, she throws up all over the hoodie Jus is wearing, which belongs to Manny, who specifically said, "Don't come back here with throw up on my hoodie." Perfect! Jus takes off the sweatshirt and tosses it in the back seat. When he tries to pick Mello up again, she slaps him hard. "Leave me alone, Justice," she says. "I can't do that, Mel. There's no way you'll make it home if you try to drive yourself." He tries to lift her by the armpits, and she spits in his face. He considers walking away again. He could call her parents, stick her keys in her pocket, and bounce. Oak Ridge is probably the safest neighborhood in Atlanta. She'd be fine for the 25 minutes it would take Mr. Taylor to get here. But he can't. Despite Manny's assertion that Mello needs to suffer some consequences for once, leaving her here all vulnerable doesn't seem like the right thing to do. So he picks her up and tosses her over his shoulder. Mello responds in her usual delicate fashion. She screams and beats him on the back with her fists. Justice struggles to get the back door open and is lowering her into the car when he hears the whoop of a short siren and sees the blue lights. In a few seconds it takes for the police car to screech to a stop behind him. Justice settles Mello into the back seat. Now she's gone catatonic. Justice can hear the approaching footsteps, but he stays focused on getting Mello strapped in. He wants it to be clear to the cop that she wasn't going to drive, so she won't be in even worse trouble. Before he can get his head out of the car, he feels a tug on his shirt and is yanked backward. His head smacks the doorframe just before a hand clamps down on the back of his neck. His upper body slams into the trunk with so much force he bites the inside of his cheek and his mouth fills with blood. Just swallows, head spinning, unable to get his bearings. The sting of cold metal around his wrist pulls him back to reality. Handcuffs? It hits him. Mello's drunk beyond belief in the back seat of a car she fully intended to drive, yet Jus is the one in handcuffs. The cop shoves him to the ground beside the police cruiser as he asks if Justice understands his rights. Justice doesn't remember hearing any rights, but his ears had been ringing from the 2 blows to the head, so maybe he had missed them. He swallows more blood. Officer, this is a big he starts to say, but he doesn't get to finish because the officer hits him in the face. "Don't you say the S word to me, you SOB. I knew your punk A was up to no good when I saw you walking down the road with that hood on." So the hood was a bad idea. Earbuds, too. Probably would have noticed he was being trailed without them. "But officer, You keep your mouth shut!" The cop squats and gets right in Justice's face. "I know your kind. Punks like you wander the streets of nice neighborhoods searching for prey. Just couldn't resist the pretty white girl who locked her keys in the car, could ya?" Except that doesn't even make sense. If Mel had locked the keys in the car, Justice wouldn't have been able to get her inside, would he? Justice finds the officer's nameplate, Castillo. It reads, though the guy looks like a regular white dude. Mama told him how to handle this type of situation, though he must admit He never expected to actually need the advice. Be respectful, keep the anger in check, make sure the police can see your hands. Though that's impossible right now. Officer Castillo, I mean you no disfer. I told your punk aide to shut the F up. He wishes he could see Mello, get her to tell the cop the truth. But the dude is blocking his view. Now, if you know what's good for you, you won't move or speak. Resistance will only land you in deeper S-word. Got it? Cigarette breath and flecks of spit hit Justice's face as the cop speaks, but Justice fixes his gaze on the glowing green F of the Farm Fresh sign. Look at me when I'm talking to you, boy. He grabs Justice's chin. I asked you a question. Justice swallows, meets the cold blue of Officer Castillo's eyes, clears his throat. Yes, sir, he says. I got it. August 25th. Dear Martin, a.k.a. Dr. King. First and foremost, please know I mean you no disrespect with the whole Martin thing. I studied you and your teachings for a project in 10th grade, so it feels most natural to interact with you as a homie. Hope you don't mind that. Quick intro. My name is Justyce McAllister. I'm a 17-year-old high school senior and a full scholarship student at Brazelton Preparatory Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm ranking 4th in my graduating class of 83. I'm the captain of the debate team. I scored a 1560 and a 34 on my SATs and ACTs, respectively, and despite growing up in a bad area, not too far from your old stomping grounds, I have a future ahead of me that will likely include an Ivy League education, an eventual law degree, and a career in public policy. Sadly, during the wee hours of this morning, literally none of that mattered. Long story short, I tried to do a good deed and wound up on the ground in handcuffs. And despite the fact that my ex-girl was visibly drunk off her A, excuse my language, I apparently looked so menacing in my prep school hoodie, the cop who cuffed me called for backup. The craziest part is while I thought everything would be cool as soon as her parents got there, no matter what they told the cops, these dudes would not release me. Mr. Taylor offered to call my mom, but the cops made it clear that since I'm 17, I'm considered an adult when placed under arrest, a.k.a. there was nothing that Mama could do. Mr. Taylor wound up calling my friend S.J.'s mom, Mrs. Friedman, an attorney, and she had to come bark a bunch of legal hoo-ha in the cops' faces before they'd undo the cuffs. By the time they finally let me go, the sun was coming up. It had been hours, Martin. Mrs. F. didn't say a whole lot as she drove me to my dorm, but she made me promise to go by the infirmary and get some cold packs for my swollen wrists. I called my mama to tell her what happened, and she said she'll file a complaint first thing in the morning. But I doubt it'll do any good. Frankly, I'm not real sure what to feel. Never thought I'd be in this kind of situation. There's this kid, Shamar Carson, black dude, my age, shot and killed in Nevada by this white cop back in June. The details are hazy since there weren't any witnesses, but what's clear is this cop shot an unarmed kid 4 times. Even Fisher, according to the medical examiners, there was a 2-hour gap between the estimated time of death and when the cop called it in. Before the incident last night, I hadn't really thought much about it. There's a lot of conflicting information, so it's hard to know what to believe. Shamar's family and friends say he was a good dude, heading to college, active in his youth group, but the cop claims he caught Shamar trying to steal a car. A scuffle ensued, allegedly, and according to the police report, Shamar tried to grab the cop's gun, so the cop shot Shamar in self-defense. I don't know. I've seen some pictures of Shamar Carson, and he did kind of have a thuggish appearance. In a way, I guess I thought I didn't really need to concern myself with this type of thing, because compared to him, I don't come across as threatening, you know? I don't sag my pants or wear my clothes super big. I go to a good school. I have goals and vision and a great head on my shoulders, as Mama likes to say. Yeah, I grew up in a rough area, but I know I'm a good dude, Martin. I thought if I made sure to be an upstanding member of society, I'd be exempt from stuff those black guys deal with, you know? Really hard to swallow that I was wrong. All I can think now is how different would things have gone if I had not been a black guy. I know initially the cop could only go by what he saw, which probably did seem a bit sketchy, but I'd never had my character challenged like that before. Last night, it changed me. I don't want to walk around all pissed off and looking for problems, but I know I can't continue to pretend nothing's wrong. Yeah, there are no more colored water fountains, and it's supposed to be illegal to discriminate, but if I can be forced to sit on that concrete in too tight cuffs when I've done nothing wrong, it's clear that there is an issue, that things aren't as equal as folks say they are. I need to pay more attention, Martin. Start really seeing stuff and writing it down. Figure out what to do with it. That's why I'm writing to you. You faced worse stuff than sitting in handcuffs for a few hours. But you stuck to your guns. Well, your lack of, actually. I want to try to live like you. Do what you would do. See where it would get me. My wrist is killing me, so I have to stop writing now. But thanks for hearing me out. Sincerely, Justyce McAllister. All right, so now you get the idea of it. Each chapter, our main character, Justyce, is writing to Dr. Martin. Now, we have AI that you could actually program with prompts saying, answer in the way Martin Luther King Jr. would answer. And you actually could have a back and forth with Martin Luther King Jr., at least based on his past writings, how AI would surmise he would answer, which is pretty amazing. And maybe that would be a fun project to do along with reading this whole book. Type in just what he said, see what response would come back. But I also want to bring up that what I loved about this book in comparison to a lot of books that are they're very much looking, most of them, looking at things from a certain perspective. And I honestly haven't found any books to give a positive perspective from the police point of view. So 100% there are crap police. 100% they're crap people. I just wish there were some that showed off the good cops that are out there. And until then, I would say that this is the book I would recommend to people who are looking for some balance. Because, dear Martin, the main character is going to a private school, and he is going somewhere, as you heard from this first chapter. And he finds that there's discrimination not just from the white police that he encountered, but he finds it because his eyes are opened in lots of places. There's discrimination and preconceptions about people because they date a white person or because they speak better or they, maybe are clean living compared to other people that might be known. Somebody who chooses not to be in a gang is full of themselves in some way. So I really loved that this book shows all of those true things. And what I just want to say is, if I were to use this book for a study group, for a book talk or a book club book, then I would hope that by the end of reading it, people would have a really strong awareness of the ways that we personally will have preconceptions and act on them, sometimes subconsciously, sometimes consciously, and that hopefully we can all make the choice to consciously try not to act on preconceptions, but to actually get to know a person before we make judgments. I just want to say that I'm proud that America is the place that we are trying to do that the most, that we have the most diversity, and I just want to wish you all a happy 4th of July. Take care. Thanks for listening.